All right, so locations of Detroit Evolution. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be showing you some of the behind the scenes stuff of the Location Scout, which was a lot of fun back last fall when we were trying to do pre-production for the movie. And also, we're going to be showing you how I went about finding those locations, and that's what this website is the Locations Gallery. Actually, I guess it's here. The Locations Gallery and the Film Commission website for the state of South Carolina, which is where I live and which is where Detroit Evolution was shot. So there's a couple elements to this. Number one is the actual Location Scout itself. This location here, Reedy River Falls, that's actually one that I considered for the Zen Garden. However, it didn't end up working out for a few different reasons, which I'll get to in a bit. So basically, I went through the concept of looking for locations, and with this website, it was very, very helpful because they log all of these locations in South Carolina that have sort of negotiated filming contracts with the South Carolina Film Commission. They have agreed to let location scouts come to the location, take pictures, log them on this website for filmmakers to reach out to and perhaps use for filming locations. So it's a lot easier to do it this way than it is to just be driving down the street and be like, oh, this is a cool looking place. I'll figure out who owns this place and text them or something. Because everybody on this website, in theory, is already primed for the concept of filmmakers coming and shooting in their location, and they're already open to that concept because otherwise they wouldn't be listed on the Film Commission website. So this is sort of your first step for that. I have a ton of pictures and videos from my Location Scout. I already have 2 vlogs on the YouTube channel, so whatever I don't show here, you can also go on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/octopunkmedia, search for the location pre-production vlogs that I did for Detroit Evolution. So there's 10 to 12 minutes worth of footage and information in those as well, about the locations that I searched for and the Location Scout that I did for the movie. What is this website called? This is called filmsc.com. And all states tend to have these. I found the one for North Carolina and I found the one for Georgia. I did not search for any out-of-state locations for Detroit Evolution because I was pretty much we shot the whole film, which was 75 pages in 7 days. So there was just not really any time to travel because any out-of-state travel for us would be at least 2 hours away. And that just seemed untenable. There's a couple locations in South Carolina that are not in Charleston that I was considering that are maybe, an hour to an hour and a half away. But you could maybe make a day trip and come back. But I wanted to make sure that none of our shoot days were longer than 12 hours. So if you do a round trip of, 3 hours here and 3 hours back, you're either going to have to stay overnight and do it into the day off, or you're going to have to do only a 6-hour shoot day. So I got desperate a couple times, and I was considering some out-of-city locations, but luckily we were able to shoot the entire film within the city limits of Charleston. So no location was more than about 20 or 30 minutes away. This, I guess I could start with the script breakdown conceptually, where pretty much I had the script and I was able to do a breakdown of all the different locations that I needed. And in order to figure out the best route of doing the shooting schedule, I kind of had to condense the locations down to not much more than the number of shoot days that we had, because the biggest time sink in a film is location moving. If you have to move from one location to another in the middle of the day, because packing up all of your stuff and then moving and then unloading again, it takes a ton of time. It can take between an hour and 2 hours to do that. So you're eating into a big portion of your shoot day when you're already trying to film 10 to 12 pages a day of the script. So we very rarely wanted to do any location moves. If we did, we wanted to keep them very simple. I think that we did 3 location moves in the total of the 7 days that we shot, but 2 out of the 3 of those for sure were end of day. We would shoot for 8 or 9 hours. We would pack up. We would go to a satellite location, and the satellite location was usually an outdoor 2-person shoot kind of deal, like the stakeout or the Lotso scene, where Brett wasn't gonna unload his entire car worth of gear again at that second location. It was kind of get out the camera, get out a couple lights, shoot the scene, this one scene, and then get out. It wasn't a situation where it was like we had two major locations, such as like the hospital in Jericho with like big casts and like full lighting setups and stuff in the same day. That's just really untenable. We did it with Detroit Awakening. We did two location moves, 3 different locations the day we shot Detroit Awakening, but that was like a 16-hour day, which I would not recommend unless you are just trying to knock out one short in one hard day. And it's not sustainable for a feature. With a feature, you want to keep it's a marathon, not a sprint. You really want to keep everybody high stamina on a feature, so you don't want to ever go over 12 hours, just so people don't get too tired. And so we were limited by time more so than we were with something like Detroit Awakening, where we could kind of afford to move around. And also with Detroit Awakening, I just had my little Canon C100. Actually, right here, this is the camera that Detroit Awakening was shot on. So it's very small, it's very compact. The Red, which is what we shot Detroit Evolution on, is like 3 times that big and has all these rigs and stuff that go with it, not to mention Steadicam and all these other things that have to be built if Rhett wanted to use something like that. So, it was a bigger footprint, with Detroit Evolution than with Detroit Awakening. With Detroit Awakening, we could almost be like documentary filmmakers. We could just like throw our gear into the car and go. Whereas unloading and loading for DE was like an hour each because of Brett's big old gear van that had to be Tetrised in the right way or else he wouldn't be able to leave. But yeah, so I guess starting with locations. So I knew that we had, I can actually maybe show. So this is my gallery that I've uploaded to Google Drive because I can't get my actual gallery to work. Lovely. Here is, I don't know if y'all can see that because it's like really tiny. Here is a spreadsheet though of the, let me see, I can get my camera out the way just for a sec. I'm gonna move myself. I won't move myself. I'll just mute myself. So I can make this a little bit bigger so you can kind of see too. This is a spreadsheet of all the places that I emailed and tried to get locations for, and a list of kind of like who rejected me, who accepted me, what the quotes were, who said, who didn't reply. And so there's 40 locations here that are listed. I know that there was more than this because, like I said, I reached out to Reedy Reels, that's the name of the film festival in Greenville. Reedy River, which is the park that was at Greenville that was really pretty. And I know I called them and I talked to them on the phone. They're not listed here, but so we had at least 40 places though that I reached out to for locations for DE. Look at all those no's. And when it says it's no, it's not that the reply was no, it's that they didn't reply. The vast majority of people just did not answer my query. I had quite a few people in the red who rejected me, who basically did email me back and say, oh, we can't accommodate your request or whatever. And then you had bad email. That's when a lot of my emails bounced. There's actually quite a few of these in here where I'd get an email location for the contact and I'd email them and it would give me that mailer name and it would come back to me and it's like, oh, that was not the right contact info. It was out of date. But we have a lot of green here. We have a lot of accepted and booked, and we do have a lot of yeses. So like Office Evolution, Hampton Park, Middleton Place, and these were places that did actually give me quotes. I just did not go with those locations. So I had a little bit to work with in terms of some places would give me a quote, and I would have to weigh it against a different location. And oh, I even know that the Charleston Animal Society was also a place that I scouted, which is not on this list. So yeah, we easily had at least 45 or 50 locations that I went to. I thought 40 sounded a little low because I spent like 2 months writing emails. I would write like 10 emails a week to locations and maybe hear back from one if I was lucky. And, even that was just like, sometimes they would be too expensive or sometimes we would talk and then they would ultimately decide to say no. I know that Ingevity up here, this one that rejected me, this one was, we had a couple conversations and ultimately they decided to say no because of security problems. And they all had their own reasons, 12 South, they were nice, but there was some I think that they did not have, what was their problem? They had like an event going on or something the same week that we were trying to shoot. Like they had like a scheduling conflict. C of C up here, which is called to Charleston, which is my alma mater. I got a little far with them, but they were another one that had like a president, event or something like that. Like the president of the college was getting, you know, I want to say the word indoctrinated, but I know that's not what it is. It's inaugurated. The president of the college was being inaugurated because they finally got rid of Glenn McConnell. Thank God. But once that happened, like that was like the same week we were shooting, so we weren't able to like shoot there. But they seemed kind of open to it. It's just we weren't able to get it to work out. The old Navy base, I got beef with them because oh my god, that one was like the rudest email I've ever gotten from anybody. I emailed her and I was like, hey, so we have this whole like naval base 15 minutes away from me. I'll have pictures of it in this gallery because we did location scout there because I had to because of what she put me through. And this is owned by the city of North Charleston. And this is actually where they shot Army Wives, that show on Lifetime. And they've shot a lot of other things there. So it's like, I know they're open to filmmakers because they had an entire series here that shot here for multiple years. And I emailed the city of North Charleston and I was like, hey, so, that old Navy base, what is what do I have to do for filming there? Like, what's the location fees? What's available? All this sort of stuff. And she replied, you need to tell me, like, what buildings you want, because not all of them are owned by the city anymore. And I was like, okay, how am I supposed to know what's owned by the city or not? Whatever. So I went and I location scouted myself, and the old Navy base is just a bunch of rusted buildings that all look the same. So I took pictures and stuff of ones that I thought could be interesting. And then I emailed back and I said, okay, here's the pictures of the buildings that I like. Here's the addresses for them. Here's like 5 of them that I think are cool. And so let's work something out. And the email that I got back was one line. It was, none of these are owned by the city. Period. Nothing else. And I was just like, wow, you're really helpful. Thanks, city of North Charleston. Super helpful. So, and later on, I was talking to another location contact, and I was just like, yeah, like, the city of North Charleston, like, this lady, like, was really mean to me. And, like, this other lady was just like, oh, yeah, she's a bitch. And I was like, okay, well, at least I'm validated then, I suppose, because Jesus. But yeah, now I know that she's a bit of a tart to work with, so if I ever need to go back to the city for anything, I'll have to put on my bitch face and do it that way, because apparently she's not to be reckoned with, or maybe I'll just have to email somebody else at the city, I don't know. So that was an adventure. We've also got Rivers Enterprises. I don't remember why they rejected me. I know that they did for some reason, or maybe they just like didn't. We had correspondence. I don't remember where it went. The Berkeley Co-op room. So Berkeley Co-op is an electric company out here. This used to be a community rental room that if you were a member of Berkeley Co-op, that was your electric company, you could get that room. It's like a multi-purpose room for free. I know this because I was sound person on another movie that did it. And so I was like, I'm a member of that electric company. So I went there and I was like, so can I use this to shoot a film in like my friend did 3 years ago? And they were like, oh, we've torn that building down. And also no. So that's why that didn't work out. More Farms, that's a farm up somewhere like an hour away from here. They just said no. They said, we'll have to decline the opportunity. UBS building, that was interesting. That was a guy in New York who like ran that company in corporate, called me and he was like, yeah, so I'm up in New York and like we get rentals for the film and all the time and that's gonna be like $5,000. And I'm like, fuck you. I was like, I'm in Charleston. No. Because I've already gotten like a $900 offer over here from Office Evolution, which is basically the same deal. Like I wanted a conference room to shoot in. Ada's office is what it was going to be for Jericho. And I was like, yeah, so I just need a conference room for like 3 hours. How much is that going to cost to film in? $5,000? Really? Like, a third of my entire film budget for 3 hours in a conference room for 10 people. Okay, cool. So that was a no. But yes, we did end up finding all of the locations in the end, as you know, because we did make the movie. And I didn't have to actually change anything. There were a couple of moments where I was like, well, maybe I'll have to change this scene to a different location if I can't find a good location for it. And I believe that the rooftop at the end with Gavin and Nines was one of the main ones that I kind of struggled with, because in Charleston there's not a lot of rooftops. There's really not. And I emailed so many people about their rooftops. I mean, over here we got McKee's at 139. That's a rooftop. 77 Wentworth, Sky Garden. Those were rooftops. Andrew Pinckney Terrace. That was a rooftop. What else we got? Cool Blow Apartment. That was a rooftop. And none of them emailed me back. Like, none of them even replied. So with the rooftop thing, like, I was really struggling, but luckily down here, Hook Marketing, that was a friend of mine named Rodney Smith, a filmmaker friend who's also an actor in SAG. He had a friend who owned Hook Marketing, and it's a downtown marketing firm on King Street, had a very nice porch in the back, so that's where we ended up shooting the final scene with Gavin and Nines, and it turned out really well. And what was also great about that location is that they had a little side alley that led upstairs, because it's on the second story of a building, this marketing place, and the first story is just like empty. It was abandoned. So we set up our actual like catering and everything in the downstairs where there was nobody, and then upstairs we had the back porch, and then in the alley is where we shot Ada attacking Nines. So we were able to shoot 2 different parts of the movie at that location, which is always great. That's what you're always looking for in a film of this budget, is multi-purpose locations. There's really only like 6 or 7 locations in the movie. There's, the Zen Garden, Jericho, the DPD, there's the stakeout, the bar, the alley, and, the streets around the bar, the hospital, Ada's lair, and the rooftop. It's like 8 places. But it kind of fools you a little bit because we use so many different rooms in the various different places. Like at the DPD, we use the conference room and the break room and the bullpen. At the Jericho, we use the exterior, we use Ada's office, we use the side corridor where the protesters were. Even at the Zen Garden, every scene in the Zen Garden is a different part of the garden. So that's even we tried to keep that a little bit broken up and distinct as well. So I think it makes the movie look bigger than it actually was, and it allowed us to make the movie, visually interesting, and every scene look distinct, versus, having to actually go to lots and lots of different locations to shoot. We were able to really like park ourselves in a location for a whole day and knock out everything in 12 hours, 10 to 12 pages, versus having to pack up the van and move lots. So that was really good. It's going to get harder and harder to do that in the future with other films, because I know that I'm going to want to continue expanding and doing things more different. Like I know that like 7 Deadly Sins could not be shot in 7 days. Like there's just no way, because 7 Deadly Sins takes the characters to so many different set pieces that are very distinct and probably will not be able to accomplish, in the same day. So now that you've kind of seen the struggle, all the emails that I wrote to actually make this movie, I can go back to the Film Commission and kind of walk you through the process of even finding those locations in the first place. So there's this really nice database, and like I said, every state that I've seen kind of has one of these. This is powered by something called Real Scout. This is this program, and most of the film commissions of every state use it for their locations library. I know that North Carolina and Georgia, which are our adjoining states, both have them as well, although they function a little bit differently. South Carolina's is pretty nice. There are a lot of locations. I mean, in this location search alone, 10,000 locations are listed in this database. 10,000 is a lot, especially for a state that's very small like South Carolina, and that isn't really known for its film. So they've done a really good job of trying to log as many places as they possibly can. Now, the struggle with South Carolina, and you can kind of see this just from this gallery, is that we're a very historic state. So if you want to find, like, manor homes and and old historic buildings and that sort of thing, this is the place. You can very easily find locations like that. Finding high-tech, futuristic kind of locations is much, much harder. That's just, we're not a very urban city, we're not a very urban state, so our downtown is very sleepy and southern and historic. It's not skyscrapers and high-tech buildings and cyberpunk. But this is where we live, so this is what we had to work with. Oh, thank you, John, for the bits. Woohoo! But that being said, there's a really cool little thing over here where you can narrow it down. You can narrow it down by city, county, or region. We are in the Charleston region, so I always hit here. At least to start, if I could not find anything in the Charleston region, I would expand it to the whole state and just see what the whole state would come up with. And then you go to architecture style, and this is where different states vary. Like North Carolina and Georgia have like different parameters here. I actually really like South Carolina's because they have this thing over here that says high-tech modern. So you can actually look for modern looking buildings. So this is narrowing it down to all the high-tech looking buildings in Charleston. There are 69 locations, supposedly. And so this is starting to look a little bit better. Like this, you've got these kind of glass buildings and buildings that look like they could be in the future. And this is where we start. And all of these, like I said, are in Charleston. So all these are within shooting distance. So that's not a bad place to start, though. 70 locations. Because if you reached out to every one of them, you'll probably get about 5 or 6 responses. So it's pretty good. But that's not to say that every one of these locations would work for the movie. And I mean, you pretty much just start with the first one and you go from there. So this one's called the Venture X Charleston Garco Mill. This is in North Charleston, which is basically where I live. This actually gives you kind of a map of where it actually is. It's next to Dig in the Park, which tells me that this is... Oh, I know what this building is. Austin, this is the new, that thing that we thought was the parking garage over by Park Circle. New building that they've built here. Okay. I didn't know that this is what this looked like on the inside. Actually, this is very pretty. I like this a lot. So the other thing about this location library is that the most recent results are the most recently updated. So anything that's at the top is new. So this was not here when I was shooting DE last year. This is new because, yeah, like I know exactly where this building is. They've been working on this forever at Park Circle. They've been really remodeling this for a long time. So Venture X, that suggests to me that this is probably some kind of co-working space. That's kind of what it looks like. It's probably some kind of like, entrepreneurial center or something to that effect. This is very pretty, though. I like this a lot. And what I found is that co-working spaces were one of the most generous with being able to shoot there, because we actually shot at 2 of them. Jericho and the DPD were both co-working spaces, and both of them were free. Although one of them was a nonprofit, so I did actually give them some money. And then the other one, I did a video for them. I did a video for them in exchange. So I did kind of pay them both, but both of them they didn't have like rental fees or anything. They were just like, oh, do us a favor and like we'll trade. But yeah, so this is very pretty. This is a very nice lobby area. Actually, to be quite honest with you, if this had existed back last year, I would have definitely hit this up for Jericho, because this totally has the right vibe for Jericho. All those big, beautiful windows, the white, sterile sort of walls. Ada would have looked great in this location. Yeah, Mom says, this is the old mill that they've been redoing forever. Yeah, they have seriously been working on this for like 10 years. Like, this has been in constant remodeling. But it's cool to see that they finally finished it. They kept some of the exposed brick, which is really nice. Yeah. I'll be saving this. Like, if I ever do another like futuristic movie, I will definitely be saving this. So yeah, this was the photo gallery, and then they have this is also cool. This I do not believe existed back last year. They have websites for the locations, so you can actually look directly Yeah, modern co-working space. And so the fun thing about co-working spaces is that they do actually tend to have their rates listed. So like if I wanted like a meeting room, it could be like, hey, how much does that cost? $39 an hour for members, but you know, even if it was double that. And then you have all the other boardrooms here. So Angel Oak Studio, whichever that is. I don't know what they can. Oh, that's a very nice looking conference room. This is also super. You know what this looks like? That looks like the DPD. I definitely would have used this for the DPD too. That totally looks like the actual DPD from DBH, because in the DPD of DBH, they have big windows with exposed brick. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of it. Hold on. Google image searching. Yeah, there we go. Oh, come on. Although I guess this is just concept art, but still. I hate Wikipedia pages though, because they won't actually let you. Arg! Well, whatever. To the point. They've got those, yeah. So like this and this, same energy. Wait. Yeah? Like this? Like this? Like this? Can I view this? No? Same energy. Damn. If only this had existed last year. It totally would have worked. It would have been great. So anyway, so yeah, you just sort of start, and like I said, you know, I had that spreadsheet that I really found useful. So I would just log, like I would say, hey, okay, Venture X Charleston. This is a really cool looking location. I'm gonna put it in my spreadsheet. Could be Jericho, could be DPD, could be both. You got to be flexible with these things. And it could have been a situation of like, all right, you know, maybe I'll use this big ballroom, you know, or you know, big open room with the windows. Maybe this will be the DPD bullpen, but maybe the conference room will be Ada's conference room. And if you can do the lighting to make them look distinct enough from each other, sometimes you can shoot in different quote-unquote locations in the same location and just fake it. That happens all the time. I did this with Psychoacoustics, actually. The doctor's office and the office that she works in at Psychoacoustics, same building, but they look completely different because one is like wood paneled and old and rustic, and the other is very white and sterile and like doctor's office-y looking. But they were two parts of the same building, so I just shot them in the same and faked it like they were two different locations. Really, it's just whatever you can get to work in the shortest amount of time in the schedule and also functional with your cast. Because the one thing about having like Jericho and DPD in the same location, if I had done that, is Ada would have had to come for like a half day and then would have had to leave for the DPD portion stuff. And that would have been maybe less efficient than having Jillian come out for like a full day of shooting, a full day at Jericho. So sometimes it can get more expensive when you're bringing your cast out for like half days multiple times instead of just bringing them out for one full day. So this is all stuff that you have to think about with scheduling. Yes, and Livestream does use one room. Livestream uses this room, actually, over there. Livestream was shot right there in the corner. And then actually part of Livestream was shot here. The clown was on this staircase here. And then actually, I think all four corners of this living room were in Livestream at some point. I've come a long way since Livestream. All right, so this is getting back to the high-tech library. This is funny, this Gel Laboratories. I used to work there, actually. This was my first chemistry gig out of college. I worked at Gel Laboratories. They were not fun. This is cool. This is a private residence. Seems to be some kind of, like, Airbnb or something. if I was gonna shoot like Kamsky's house or something, this would be really cool. Although it also has a very neat exterior as well. I would maybe do like a Jericho exterior or something here. If this is another one that wasn't on the library last year. But you've also got some kind of beach if you wanted to shoot on the beach, which never. It's awful. I won't even shoot weddings on the beach. But, oh yeah, look how futuristic that looks. That could totally be like Kamsky's house, right? It's very, very modern. But here's the problem with doing locations like this. Because it's a private residence, you really gotta like number one, they can charge anything they want because it's their house, so they don't need you in any capacity. And number two, you do kind of have to know somebody, even though they're listed here on the Film Commission website. It's kind of like, okay, you know, like Linda Lee is the credit for this picture. Linda Lee is actually the chair of the South Carolina Film Commission, so that's who went here, I guess, and took these pictures. I would say that I would probably need to contact Linda to get this location and be like, hey, you know the owners, put in a good word for me, instead of going through the website and trying to just cold call them. Because with private residencies, I just never had any luck trying to find the location info for this on the website. You know, I would go to the Film Commission and I'd be like, hey, who's the contact for this house? And they would give me the information, but my emails would never be answered. The unsolicited nature of that, it just doesn't work out as well with private residencies. So yeah, I would just look at the photo credit up top and be like, all right, Linda, I sort of know Linda. She doesn't really know me. I know who she is though, and I know her contact info. So I would try to convince her first, and then hopefully she would help me. There's another person who I encountered through the location scout named Bob Basha, who is the location scout for Mr. Mercedes and Vice Principals and all the big shows that shoot here. And we actually talked on the phone a little bit because we ran into each other through this location scout. And if I saw his name on a photo credit, at least I have his email now, and we have actually talked. I love this house. This is absolutely beautiful. It is very residential, so the interior, I mean, this would have to be a house, you know, this would have to be like, we're shooting at Kamsky's or something like that. But I do think the exterior is really neat. Of course, there's palm trees goddamn everywhere, which is, that's one of the issues that we ran into with shooting in South Carolina, is the palm trees are everywhere, and it's just unavoidable. One day I'm going to make a meme video of all the palm trees in Detroit Evolution, and just so you'll never be able to unsee them, because it's just completely unavoidable. It is really neat, though. I could so see Kamsky living here. It's just like this would be the perfect location for, like, I mean, it's right even on the water, which I believe Kamsky's house is. Like, I think in that final cutscene, like the Kamsky ending, it's like a picture of him like looking out over the water. This is his summer home, yes. He's got an infinity pool too, which is kind of also Kamsky-ish. That's really neat. Oh. Just turn it red in post and he'd be... There's columns in it, though. I guess with Charleston, they were like, well, this house is going to flood anyway, so let's get a head start on it. But, oh yeah, this is so neat. I also, like, I don't know. I think I would be a realtor in another life. I love looking at pictures of houses. Especially cool houses that I'll never be able to afford. But yeah, so that's obviously a place we didn't shoot at, but maybe one day, because it's super, super neat. I don't like the loading times on this website at all. What else we got? Okay, so I can actually show you the Ingevity bit. This is called Midwest Vaco Corps headquarters. It's currently called the Ingevity building. I have friends who work here. This is another chemistry place. And I can't remember if I hit up one of them, actually, about maybe getting me in. I think I just went through the typical channels, and she replied to me. We talked on the phone a couple of times. We were going to maybe use this for Jericho because it does kind of have a futuristic look on the exterior. But what I really liked was this walk up would have been really cool for protesters to kind of the anti-android protesters to hang out at. And the lobby of this place, the interior, is really what I liked. If I can get there at some point. Come on. Can we get to some interiors, please? It's funny, that looks not futuristic in the slightest, so we wouldn't be able to use this. This doesn't look right. But this is cool. This lobby area with the little decor. Got the big windows. That's a cool staircase. Cool staircase. Here we go. Here's a cool picture of the lobby. So this I wanted to use for Jericho, but they did not like that I had a bunch of extras. I think that was the deal breaker for them because they said that they just couldn't guarantee it from a security standpoint. Because we were going to shoot here on a Saturday because it would have been outside of business hours. We might have been able to get away with shooting during business hours if we had had a small footprint. With the whole, like, big group of extras outside yelling and stuff, like, we just didn't think that would be very good to do during business hours because that'd be very distracting. So we ended up asking for the weekend. I think that I could go back and shoot at this place if I really wanted to. Like, I think I could contact them and be like, hey, like, I know it did work out last time because we had all these extras. Can we do something here now that it's just like, if it was just like a 3-person thing, if it was very small, and not very complicated. At least I know that they are responsive at this location. At least I know that they will entertain the idea of having a film shoot, that they will talk to their superiors and stuff and talk to corporate and like have the conversation as opposed to just never answering my email. So I have a good relationship with these people, I suppose, now. And I would go back there again and see if we can't work something out, especially if it was all just exterior. Because I think interior was also really where we lost them, was because we were going to be out there for a very long time, like the full day, because we wanted to shoot all of Jericho here. And here's a bridge that's, I mean, it's the Mark Clark Bridge, it's whatever. And a paper mill across the street, because that's what Midwest Vaco actually was the paper mill. I don't think they would let us shoot in the paper mill. I think that it's just this building. Neat little building, though. And very, very far away from goddamn palm trees, though. God, this state. You almost think that we would be called the Palmetto State or something. Back in 2014, I used to work in a school in Melbourne. They filmed some scenes of a series there. It kind of does look like a school in some capacity, doesn't it? It looks like, you know, the same stuff that they make school. I'm just going to yell about these palmetto trees forever. Just, they're everywhere. This state, I swear, just, you cannot get rid of them in any frame. They're everywhere. Oh. All right. So what else we got? They are pretty trees. They don't have them in Detroit. Pacific Box and Crate, I'll get to in a bit because I went there. I did a location scout there, so that's part of my actual gallery. This is interesting. This is one of the places we actually shot at. This is the Trident Tech 970 building. This is where we shot the CyberLife stuff. So there's some cool exterior with palmetto trees. I love this staircase. It's a really, really neat, like, suspended staircase. And this is the downstairs lobby. I thought that maybe we could shoot the lobby stuff, like where Tina and Gavin are waiting in this area. But we were not able to because in this location, we were in the unique and weird circumstance of having to shoot during business hours. They would not let us shoot out of business hours without paying a lot more. And the reason is because it is a school and they operate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. And any other time that they are closed, they would have to have staff be in attendance doing overtime to monitor us after hours. So we ended up not wanting to pay that because it was something like, I don't know, $50 an hour per, extra hour that some person was going to have to stay, plus another $30 an hour for janitors to stay as well. And then also like the rate for the actual location was like twice as much per hour as well. It just really, really, really compounded even just for a few extra hours. I think we ended up paying $1,100 for the entire location for 10 hours. That was basically $100 an hour plus $100 for the fact that they had to take the dummy mannequin out of the bed that Nines was laying on and move it to another bed. That was $100. So it was basically, $100 an hour. And I think that if we had shot this on a Saturday instead of on a Thursday, it would have been like $2,500. It would have been over double the cost because of all the overtime and extra charges and things. So, we were in that weird circumstance of having to shoot, while things were going on. And because this is a functioning school, this lobby was going to be way too busy and stuff during operating hours, so we were not able to shoot down here. We needed to shoot in areas where there weren't going to be people, where we could have privacy. So it ended up, I think this might be, there's a few different beds that we could have chosen. I thought about maybe making this the DPD bullpen, but I ended up not, because I think that the Harbor Entrepreneur Center ended up working out better. This looks very scholarly, so, but it was an option if I didn't have any other. This might be no, this is not the room either. So the reason I chose Trident for the hospital was because of these windows. One thing I just really imagined from the very beginning of DE was that I wanted this shot of Gavin looking through this giant bay window into the hospital room of Nines. It was just one of those shots that I've had with me since, even before I imagined Detroit Awakening, really. And so that was just such a non-negotiable thing for me. I probably could have found a cheaper location for a hospital set, but I just wanted those windows, and this was one of the only places I found that had that. And it turned out so beautiful, and I think it was so worth it in the end. But we were in a really interesting situation where you had the hallway, which had the windows looking into the rooms, and that was going to be kind of non-conducive because, again, the hallways are functioning because it's a functioning school. We were able to get one of the bays where it's like a whole lab that's set aside for this that had a partition wall with a window in it that was also still in the lab. So what we faked as the hallway that Gavin and Tina are standing in is actually just a different part of the lab. There was like another like mannequin on a bed like right behind them because they were just standing in another hospital room essentially. This is the room where we actually shot the lobby stuff. It's just from a different angle. You'll see in the unused footage with Dr. Maria, she's actually standing in front of this. It's very kind of futuristic looking, these big windows. And there's still some classrooms and stuff. That's kind of creepy. Kind of cyber-lifey though, isn't it? All the arms. This is Lotso's room. More staircase. Yeah, more classrooms. If you ever want to like shoot in a school. All the palmetto trees. Speaking of which, they have a rooftop at this location as well. I considered doing something on the rooftop, but it would cost quite a lot extra. They have this break room area. Again, I consider this for maybe the DPD, the break room stuff, because they did have some stuff that could have been the DPD. Yeah, I mean, all these like futuristic tech buildings were kind of split for me between hospital, DPD, and Jericho. Like I could have kind of done any of them or pieces of them in various parts of. That's kind of cool. Huh. This is I might use this for something else I'm working on now. I'm gonna remember this. There's something I'm working on now that could use something like this. Okay. I don't remember seeing that before. Okay, keep your secrets. And then you got your exteriors and everything. Finding an exterior to shoot in was actually surprisingly difficult. I did not think that it would be, because I was like, oh, well, as long as they don't let us in the building, you know, they're not going to care. That's not true at all. We were very fortunate to be able to get the Jericho area, both the inside and the outside, because the outside, it was a weekend, so they didn't care that we were all up in the location. But with this, again, we had to be there during operating hours, so we couldn't have a whole, like, crowd of people outside the front of the building when students are trying to get through and go to class. So, you know, just one of those things. But not only did we try to find high-tech locations, I also really needed to find a Zen garden. And I tell you what, that was the hardest location to find. And it was because we had to be very, very specific. I think, let me see. Location categories. That's right, gardens. Do I have this set in Charleston? Let's make sure. The garden was very difficult to find for a couple different reasons. Number one, we had to find some very specific things with the Zen garden. Number one, we couldn't have, like, power lines, we couldn't have other people, we couldn't have trash cans, we couldn't have street lights. It needed to look like it was its own very, very isolated mind palace that didn't have anybody else in it, that didn't have modern amenities or anything like that. So that's why most parks did not work, because parks were very public, and parks were also very populated with things like trash cans, populated with things like power lines in the background. You just would have to VFX the crap out of it or shoot around it, and it was going to be a huge pain. Not to say that I didn't consider some parks because of the cost, but you know, it wouldn't have been ideal. It would have been not immersive enough, and also would have caused me a lot of headache in post, and also a lot of headache from a cinematography standpoint. So that kind of left us with private gardens, private grounds. Charleston is a big plantation town, so that was kind of where I ended up having to focus my location scouting energy, was the plantations in South Carolina, because they would have no modern amenities, but they still are tourist attractions. So I had to deal with the fact that, all right, it might look right, but does it sound right? Am I going to hear chainsaws going in the background? Am I going to hear, you know, tour guides yelling about South Carolina in the background, which is what also happened at our Zen Garden location. And then the third problem is that, okay, so, you know, plantations are pretty much our option for this location in Charleston. Those are also major, major event venues, and they're very, very proud of themselves, and they're very, very expensive. And so that ended up being the most expensive location in Detroit Evolution was Magnolia Plantation, which is where the Zen Garden was shot. Everything in the Zen Garden was shot in only like 9 hours, because they were another location that would not let us be there after hours. We had to be during operating hours, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it was $1,500 for that little strip of the Zen Garden that we tried to maximize as much as we could. But we could not use any of the iconic places that people typically go there to see: the Red Bridge, the White Bridge, the Bamboo Garden, the horticulture mazes, anything like that, because that would be too in the way. They put us on a little path that, you know, people could go around. And that's it. So, yeah, $1,500 for that is a lot. I mean, the hospital only was $1,100, and that was a hospital. I mean, a nursing college, but it's still, let me think about how high tech and how involved that location was, and compared to a garden. Nature was $1,500. But like I said, it's not like we could go out and shoot it in the forest because it wouldn't look right. You know, we had to really try to find stuff that didn't look too jungly, that didn't look too forest. It needed to look a garden. It needed to look like it had flowers, like there was some purpose to it, like there was some statues and things like that in it that made it look, you know, elevated from just nature. If we were very, very low budget, I suppose we could have gone out in the forest and shot, but that wouldn't have looked right. And that's the problem I always have with Star Wars fan films, actually, is that so many people try to fake, like, the backyard oak forest, you know, by their house as indoor, and it's like, no. Indoor was the redwood forest. If it's not a redwood forest, it doesn't look right. It looks like you're just shooting a Star Wars fan film in your backyard, if it's wrong. And so locations, even nature, you know, even trees and even flowers and stuff, you do have to, you can't just swap it out. It's not indiscriminate. Like, it really needs to be right. And so Magnolia Plantation is where we ended up, but there were a couple other places that I looked at. There was Cypress Gardens, which was not a plantation, actually. This was the one place I really wanted to be in because it wasn't a plantation, to my knowledge. It's mostly just a swamp. But that's kind of the problem with Cypress Gardens, is that it is a swamp, and it looks like one. It doesn't quite look gardeny enough. But they have a butterfly garden that I really wanted to shoot in because it was so neat looking. See, this is very like South Carolina swamp. It doesn't quite look right. It would look better than going out and shooting in a forest, but still not quite right. Cypress Gardens and I had correspondence, but it didn't work out because I wanted the butterfly garden, and they were like, no, you can't have the butterfly garden. It's because that was another situation of they would not let us close down the butterfly garden to tourists in order to shoot. And I always got to wonder about, like, why some other places are allowed to get in, because we had insurance and I had a budget for locations, and I was pretty clear about that in all my query emails. I was like, hey, what is your fee? And I have insurance, and it's a small production, but you know, what is your fee? And some of them just wouldn't even answer me. And it's like, everybody's got a price, right? You know, just tell me what it is. If it's $10,000, okay, whatever. I'm not paying that, but at least now I know. At least I now know if I ever have $10,000, and that's what it'll take to get this butterfly garden. But you know, some of them just wouldn't answer. But I know that some of these places, like Halloween shot in the Citadel, you know, I'm sure they wouldn't give me the Citadel. I'm not finding Cypress Gardens butterfly garden right off the top, but so I'll go back here. One thing I do want to look at, though, that was not here before that I'm curious about is this MUSC urban farm, because this is kind of neat looking, and I think this is a new location. I don't remember this being here. It's kind of like a urban farm of Detroit, isn't it? Here's the other thing that I had to deal with. Buildings. I could not have any buildings in the background of the Zen garden. So anything like this that was kind of cute but in the middle of a city was not going to work, because it's just too in the middle of the city. But I might be able to do something else with this later. But not the Zen garden. And what else do we have? A few of my other locations, like Whaley's Warehouse. That's Michael Whaley's warehouse that we shot. It's the Gluttony Synth. We've shot there before. He's a friend of mine, obviously. He helped with the film. So that's where we shot Ada's Lair. So that was just a friend's location. Whaley's house, his apartment, was Gavin's apartment. So again, a friend location. Amorous Dance Studio, that's my friend Sarah Diana. She works there. Had an office there, and we were able to use the back alley behind it for where they encounter Lotso. So that was another friend's one. Burns Alley Tavern, which is where we shot the bar. That was a free location. Friend of a friend hooked us up. and they were very open to that. So actually, the only locations that I had to pay for was the hospital, Magnolia Plantation. Well, really, those were the only two I had to pay for. And then I did pay Low Country Local $500 as a donation of Jericho for letting us shoot there. So all in all, I guess I spent $3,000 or $3,500 or something like that on locations for Detroit, or $3,100 for locations in Detroit Evolution. And that's not bad, considering how bad it could have been for some places. Well, thank you, Anastasia. Yes, I really had to work very hard on the location. It really took like 2 months and then 50 emails or something like that. It was my least favorite part of doing the film because it was so hopeless sometimes. I remember being very, very stressed about the location scout for the film because I just could not get some locations. I think the Zen Garden was the last one that I found because initially I went to Magnolia Plantation first with JJ, and I'll show you in a sec all of the videos and pictures that we took when we did our scout there, which is really cute. We did that first, and I really liked some of the places there to shoot, and I got the quote of $1,500, and at the time I could not afford it. At the time I was like, there's no way I can pull. I mean, I think I was working with like a $14,000 or $13,000 budget for the film at that point, and there's just no way. And then lovely Knick Knack Paddywhack came in with an executive producer level donation out of the blue, which damn near paid for that entire location budget. If I had not gotten that donation around that time, I don't know if we would have shot at Magnolia Plantation because we would not have been able to afford it. Unless I took out a loan and just said, fuck it, So I'm very grateful to Nicole for that because that really, really, really helped us get that location, and it came just at the right time. So here's some pictures and stuff. Hopefully all this will load. I can kind of just walk you through what all of these are. This, as you know, was the hospital lobby. This is at the nursing college. This is typically a break room for students to hang out and study and stuff. So we moved everything around. We put all the chairs against the wall. We made it look more like a break room. Turned off the lights, lit it, put Brett's quasar tubes in the bottom to make it look all neon and futuristic. And yeah, so that's how we ended up working with this location. So this was one of our alternative Zen Garden locations. This is a downtown park, unfortunately named Hampton Park, because Hampton was a very terrible guy, who they should probably rename this park because he was gross. But anyway, this is a Hampton Park in downtown Charleston. At first glance, this looks great, right? Like, this looks very, very pretty. It's a pretty gazebo. There's like going to be flowers and stuff. But look, let me turn on my cursor. Well, actually, maybe. Oh no! Oh, did I just ruin it? Really? Did I just... Damn it! Come on now. Don't do me like this. Chrome. There we go. We're back. You can't see my cursor. That's a bummer. But if you look dead in the center column and a little to the right, you can see that street light. And this is what I meant by there's so much stuff just constantly in the background of parks. And this is why parks will not work. Because having a Narnia street lamp does not really go with the Zen Garden. The thing is, I maybe could have justified the Narnia lamps. Because it's like, oh, Narnia has street lamps. Why wouldn't Nine Zen Garden? But then, if you keep going, you see, like, the other stuff in the background that won't work. Like palmetto trees. Like, there's some trash cans here. There's street in the background. Like, look straight through the gazebo, and you'll see, like, cars. Because Hampton Park is pretty close to us, It's one of those parks that's, like, in the middle of town. So there's a main street that goes all the way around it. So you can get pretty deep into the park and maybe avoid some of that. But off in the distance, there's always going to be a little bit of traffic and stuff. So that's also why this didn't work. People do get married here, though. And you know, this is another one where it's like, oh, okay, like maybe this could work, but there's trash cans every 5 feet. Nines would not have trash cans in his Zen garden. Now, this is also at Hampton Park. We would have probably have had to have gone with something like this if we actually shot there. Would have had to go with one of the trails that just shows trees and you don't see any traffic or any modern amenities or anything like this. And this could have worked. The problem is Hampton Park would have been open to the public, so we would have had to work with that, which wouldn't have been a huge deal. It's a very, very big park, and not a lot of people really go there. We could have put up cones and security and stuff and worked with it the same way we did with Magnolia Plantation. So that wouldn't have been a big deal, but it is so close to the street that you can actually hear street noise. And that's another thing. It's not just about how things look, it's also about how things sound. As well as other logistical things, like how far was this away from the parking lot? How much would we have had to haul our crap from the parking lot to this location, and how tiring would that have been? How close are bathrooms? How close are power outlets? These are all things that you have to consider when you go to locations. And when I show you some of the video that we took at Magnolia and other places, I think I only have Magnolia videos in here today because that's all I had time to gather before Windows crapped. But there's all these sorts of things that you have to consider when you location scout. It's not just about, oh, this is pretty, but it's also about how functional will it be to shoot in this location, and how many problems are we going to be able to run into when we actually shoot here. But yeah, like this could have worked. I mean, it's not flowery enough. It's not really that pretty, but it's better than just going out and shooting in a forest. So the other good thing about Hampton Park is it would have been very, very cheap. The permit for this location for an entire day, and I do think that they would have given us 12 hours. I think they were going to give us 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so we would have had a little bit more time. Was $125. So now I know that. Now if I ever want to shoot something that actually does take place in a park and isn't trying to fake a mine palace, we could have we could have it for $125 for 12 hours. So I know that it's very affordable, at least. Some interesting oak trees, I guess. And yeah, I mean, it is just very, you know, parkish. Now we're to Burns Alley. This is the bar location. So here's the problem with Burns Alley, and I'll show you. I'll move this down a little so you can kind of see one of the main problems. Burns Alley has Charleston stuff all over it. Charleston City paper. There's like big signs that say Charleston. See, Burns Alley Tavern, Charleston, South Carolina. It says in big letters right there. Up above the bathroom, Charleston Music Confab. I mean, Charleston, 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 everywhere. There was also Halloween decorations everywhere, but that wasn't so big of a problem because we just went with it. But yeah, here's a sharper image of this. Yeah, Charleston, Charleston, Charleston. One of these guys is that Jameson rep who gave me a free shot while I was there location scouting. Also, you can see that this place has kind of a tin roof. And the other problem with bars, which I've discovered with this and with Seven Deadly Sins, is that all of them have loud ice machines and fridges that you can't turn off. And getting the sound cleanup in a bar location after is always a huge, like, annoyance. So, now I know that. The other thing about this, Interstate 26, South Carolina, again, more Charleston, South Carolina stuff, but this had a second story, this bar, which you can see in the film. Like, you can see, like, above Nines, there is the staircase for the second story. Originally, I conceptualized that we were going to shoot on this second story, that the characters were going to be sitting at one of these tables, but we ended up throwing all of our catering stuff, and, you know, this kind of became base camp for the crew when we were shooting outside the bar and around the streets and all the other satellite locations before we went downstairs and shot the actual bar stuff. And the reason I thought about shooting upstairs is because the sound was going to be better. We were going to be farther away from the ice machines and the sound cleanup would have been better. But Brett liked the downstairs better for lighting reasons, that this would have been too cramped. He wouldn't have been able to move around as much as he wanted to. So this is where we ended up doing it. We did it in the downstairs. Lots of blurry pictures of Burns Alley. So shooting from above down into the area could have been cool. Like, that's, if we had had more time, we might have tried something like that. We might have tried to do like a master shot of the DPD guys, like at one of these tables, down from above. That could have been a cool shot. But we didn't have time. It was 3 a.m. So this is Harbor Entrepreneur Center. This is where we shot the DPD. This is the exterior of it. And here's the upstairs conference room where the kiss happened. I loved this because there was these huge windows, which is very futuristic and very much reminiscent of the DPD. Very reminiscent of all that. Ah, Smallwood! Now here's the problem with Burns Alley, is a conversation I've had many times. Yes, I love that was Michael's college bar. And also, there was Charlie Kaufman, Jumping Wolf, who might be in the chat today, I don't know. Sometimes he shows up to streams. Charlie went to the College of Charleston. Actually, Charlie was around at the College of Charleston sort of the same time I was there. Although he was not a student, he was like an intern in the staff department for the geology department. He like worked in the GIS lab. So I actually encountered Charlie when I was in college. And he said when he was there, being an extra that night at Burns Alley, he was like, I didn't know that this place had a front door. I've always just entered through the Mexican restaurant in the back. Because I think that La Hacienda is on the other side of Burns Alley, and apparently they used to have an adjoining door or something. I don't know. I guess at some point during Charlie's college days, he would hang out at La Hacienda and then go through the back by the bathrooms straight into Burns Alley. Charleston, man. It's great. So, So yeah, this was upstairs at Harbor Entrepreneur Center. Lovely people, a co-working space that's very tech-centric and very locally owned here in Charleston. I paid for the location by doing a video for them, which maybe I'll link to at some point. I really like the chairs at the Harbor. These chairs are straight out of the DPD. If you look at pictures of the DPD, on the DPD wiki or whatever for Detroit Become Human, it's these chairs. The only difference is that they have the logo on the back. There was a lot of other places in this building that we didn't shoot at. Like there were, like this is a room. This was some kind of office that nobody was using. I thought we might use this for the interrogation room. But Brett actually found the interrogation room that we did use that had that glass wall that was into the staircase that he was able to light real nice. So that's what we ended up using for this. If I had like Fowler in the movie, I could have done like Fowler's office as something like this. One of the smaller offices. I was also, still considering, maybe this might be Jericho. Maybe I'll have Ada. But I think I knew pretty early on, I was like, this looks just like the DPD. This really needs to be the DPD because of all the glass and the way, and the blue and the white and the way that all of the furniture looks. It was just very similar to the game. So I don't think I ever really considered this very far for anything other than the DPD. The exterior was originally going to be the stakeout scene. We were originally going to do it in the parking lot of this location, but I ended up getting very ill that day, and we kind of wrapped early. And also, we would have shot the stakeout like right after the kiss scene, and I'm glad we didn't do that because that would have been way too like much for everybody. Everybody was pretty like done after that reunion scene, so it would have been 2 a.m. and we would have been exhausted. So we pushed the stakeout to a different night. All right. So we got some videos of me and JJ. I guess they're tiny. Oh, maybe they're not. Oh, I realized my desktop audio is not on. Gotta turn that on. Let's turn that on. There we go. You pretend you're Maximilian, and we're gonna try to walk side by side. Yeah, I think we can pull it off. Like it's wide enough for 2 people.
Yeah, they'd be kind of close.
Yeah.
But I mean, if that's what you go
yeah.
for.
Yeah. So that was the horticulture maze, which would have been really cool. This would have been cool for Gavin and Nines. This was one of those places at Magnolia that they were like, it's too famous for you to shoot. Like you can't shoot here because it's gonna interfere with the tourists. And it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, that would have been really neat. I really liked this area a lot. It was very, trimmed. It could have been cool. What else we got? This is one of the bridges.
This is like on the way to the Long White Bridge. So you've got it in the background. But then you've got flowers and stuff on the way here.
The bridges were another place that they were like, you can't shoot here, it's too famous. I think this was another gazebo at the bamboo garden. I'm actually gonna go here. Where's the bamboo garden stuff? Oh, that's JJ with the bamboo garden. I think it's here.
This is the bamboo garden. Really cool bamboo structures all around. And then there's like a bench here. There's 2 bridges, which we can go up. And apparently there's
a tree right in the middle.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah. It's just like, you didn't cut, you just built it. Right.
Oh my god. This would be so difficult to shoot on though, like they're keeping their balance. I love how you got like a huge like thing coming out of your head because of this.
What? Yeah, I gotta prune some stuff in my mind. There's just too much room in. But it's just also like if they're like standing and talking to each other, I bet you one of them's gonna run right into this fucking tree.
Well, there's another bridge over here.
Mm-hmm. It was so steep.
Is
this
that
bridge?
Yes. Okay. I don't know if this is. No, this is the bridge. Did we come down this one? I can't remember the tree in the middle.
No, we definitely didn't come this way.
Okay, because this is the bridge I was thinking was the Monet bridge.
What was that? Is that like a salamander? It's really cool looking up.
Oh look at that bird! Is it a baby?
Oh, it looks scared.
A bird. So there was a lot of nature at this place as well, lots of animals. But that area was kind of my backup area. Like I would have asked for that because it was very, 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 very far in the back of this grounds. And I think there was like nobody over there. And I think that they would have let us have it if I had asked because it was one of those that we were kind of tossing around. But it just was a little too jungly. It wasn't like gardeny enough. So even though we would have had the bridge, even though we would have had the little lake area, it would have looked more big. I just decided that it didn't quite look as nice as the actual garden area that we shot in. So, and yes, there's not a lot of cypress in Detroit. What's interesting about these videos, though, I think, is I want to show you some things where me and JJ went to certain areas and talked about what we could have used those areas for. Because even though we were kind of stuck in that path that they actually gave us, we had talked about when we first initially scouted this place, we were like, oh, we could do this here or this here if they let us have it. And they didn't have any restrictions on where we could go at that point, so our imaginations were going wild. Well, this is one of the areas where I thought maybe this could be where Nines deletes Zin Gavin, because it's a bridge and a pedestal.
Yeah, you've got this bridge here.
Ooh, and a little, is that it?
There's like a little sitting area at the end, yeah. And then here. And then yeah, you've got spiders. Don't attack me, spiders.
And I don't know, it looks like a fountain, but I don't think it'll be a fountain.
Yeah, no. We could maybe put like an orb there or something if we want.
I mean, hey. Well, that kind of, it's like Connor's like,
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Although, like an orb.
Like this is the failsafe, especially if like he was sitting here and then Gavin like crosses the bridge and like he kind of like, it's like, okay, I'll destroy it, and like puts his hand on the orb and like that destroys his mind palace.
Yeah, just put like a green.
Yeah.
So that was something that was considered. That if we had had that location, we would have put like the Kamsky failsafe on that pedestal, and he would have actually like used the failsafe to delete his mind palace. We were not able to get that location, so that did not happen. There's also this area, which, well, you'll see what I was thinking for this as well.
Horticultural maze. You've got like this cool balcony thing where you could set up a camera and then like shoot into the garden.
Yeah, the statue in the middle.
So we went into the garden here.
There's like a little like spigot there or something.
There's some little trees. Yeah, I mean, it could be cool for them to like, oh, I see some people are videoing out there. So yeah, maybe if they like walked into this clearing or circled it. Actually, this would be a cool place for him to confront Ada.
Oh yeah.
Like if she was kind of like standing in front of that.
I think I have one more.
This is the view from
Whoa.
here. Yeah, that's a really cool view.
You
Wasp!
get- Except for that. Yeah.
I don't remember what video it was, but the idea was that if this is a maze, that when he's trapped by Ada in the Mind Palace, that one thing that we could have done is actually have him like running through the horticultural maze, unable to get out, and that physically he could be trapped in his Mind Palace in the sense of being trapped in a literal maze, and that in the middle you have that statue of the lady, and that he runs into Ada there, and that's when she explains to him that he's trapped and can't get out. So again, we had a lot of different options with the initial scout, where we were kind of going through and having ideas for things, and you know, a lot of them, you know, just didn't work out because we were not allowed to shoot in those places, or it just wasn't logistically possible. This is one place where we maybe considered having the Zen garden. There was like actually like a tomb here of some old dead, like, white supremacist probably. So, but yeah, we didn't shoot in that area. There was like this clearing, but that was kind of boring. So had like a couple other paths which could have worked out. But ultimately where we ended up was the, I think Contemplation Garden is what this was called. This is the gazebo and the pathway, and this was what actually became our Zen garden. This was a prayer garden, which is pretty, but there's all this Christian stuff around. There's the statue of Mary, and then there's the cross, and there's also, you know, all these little signs telling you what the flowers are and stuff, and that just wasn't going to work. So earlier I said that we went to the Navy base to scout locations before the city was like, oh, the city does not own any of these locations, period, full stop, goodbye. But this is what that actually looks like. There were a few different, like, older buildings, just city buildings. This is the old electric building, which could have been neat. I was thinking that these could be, you know, where we confronted Lotso, where we had the stakeout, where Jericho was, any sort of, like, street where Ada attacks nines. There was a few different palmetto tree concepts that we could have. Why is this an old abandoned Navy base and they still spruced it up with palmetto trees? So yeah, just a lot of like decaying buildings. So Pacific Box and Crate. This is in my location scouting like database. This is a place I went to go scout because this is a very interesting workplace campus. It's like a whole campus of co-working spaces and little restaurants and things right outside of downtown. It is very futuristic looking. It's very neat. Unfortunately, because it's a big campus, there's not like any owner necessarily that is easy to get in contact with. Originally, the owners of it were Harbor Entrepreneur Center, who we shot the DPD at. So when I emailed them initially, I was like, hey, I want to shoot at Pacific Box and Crate. And they're like, we're not at Pacific Box and Crate anymore. We're downtown, but you can come see us. And so I went downtown and then we shot the DPD there. But I never found out who actually owns this now. Might actually get in touch with the people who own Harbor and be like, yo, who'd you sell this to? I wanna shoot here. So this is the patio of one of the co-working spaces called Boomtown. My mother applied for a job here. Actually, Mom, didn't you get offered a job here once? I think this is where you would have worked. Anyway, this is where this was. This is the outside of the Boomtown building. This is where I considered maybe having Ada attack Nines, or like when they're walking down the street together, because this is very street looking. It's very urban, but it's very isolated in a campus, so there's no traffic. There's no actual car traffic, so it's quiet. You're not going to run into anybody. And on the weekends, there's like nobody here. But there's this really cool like architecture to it. I really just feel like this whole thing is very clean. It looks like it was designed for a video game map. Just all sorts of like modular kind of futuristic structure. And like this lawn, which is probably AstroTurf of some kind. And this was a Sunday afternoon, so there were people out, but not a whole lot because it's the weekend. So all the people who work here, including that palmetto tree, were not here. Oh, Mom says she wasn't cool enough to work there. Well, it is a pretty cool location. This is like their food court with the palmetto tree. I swear to God, I'm gonna burn every palmetto tree in this town. Oh, this is kind of cool. It got the ivy on there. So yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a cool picture of Austin standing in front of some of it, but it didn't work out. So this is Ada's lair. This is the warehouse, also known as the Gluttony Synth. Took a couple of exterior location scout. Actually, I think this is when we shot the Gluttony Synth. So this is just some pictures from it. And I guess that's all that I was able to gather from here. I might give me just a second. I'm gonna go through my drive and see if I can find, because I know that I have other stuff on this drive. DE pics, locations. What do we got? What is DE pics? They have beer on tap in their break room at Boomtown? What? That is such a coworker space thing. Oh my God. I have another DE folder. Oh, this is just like pictures from the movie. Oh, there's some stuff in here actually. I can... Let's see. Can I copy? Just trying to see if I can get anything over here. If there's anything else I want to show off. Who is here? It is 1:30. It better be delivery of something fun. Okay, I could show off some of this stuff. Sure. What we got? So this is the roof of Hook Marketing. So this is where we shot the rooftop scene. We have some more pictures of the lobby area from the hospital. We have some like, yeah, costume stuff in here. This is a picture of the alley during the day. You could see how narrow it is. It's only 5 posts wide. So that was kind of a challenge, was shooting in the alley, because it's just like, so narrow. What else we got? I don't really see anything in here that isn't already in the... Is that something fun? Did they deliver something? What'd they deliver? Is it a synth? I swear if it's a synth. It's not a synth. It's for Austin. It's for Austin. Always. It's in a squishy bag, so it's probably not a synth. Second interview with them, but no face-to-face. They wanted somebody with my 17-plus year experience, but wanted a 21-year-old they could get to work 12-hour days and not pay them much. That's why they have beer on tap. That's how they get you. Is they're like, we have free beer and you can bring your dog. Also, you're going to live here now. Don't bother renting an apartment. You'll be here 200 hours a week. So, if you have any questions about location scouting or the locations we used, feel free to throw them in the chat. Just the chat's fine. I'm not looking at the stream Q&A box right now, so if you put something in the stream Q&A box, I'm sorry, because I haven't been paying attention to it. But I will answer anything you throw in the chat. This urban farm is really neat. I love, even though it is a huge pain in the butt to do location scouting and to be rejected so many times, I actually really do genuinely enjoy this part of the process because the possibilities are endless. It's like I love looking at pictures of things and being like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to shoot there? Man, that's nice looking. They're probably going to reject me and I probably can't afford it, but I can dream. I love pre-production because it's the dreaming stage of the film. You can be like, the sky's the limit. I can do anything. And then, you know, they're like, that'll be $3,000 and also you don't have enough insurance. One location in Charleston that you would absolutely avoid like the plague. Oh, let me think about that. I would say any... You get over here and you show that to these people. It's cute. I mean, legitimately, it looks pretty good on you.
Also,
the fur is removable?
yeah, for the not winter.
It's zipper fur?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that what they call vegan leather?
Probably. I have no idea.
Vegan leather, also known as plastic. Yeah, okay, so...
It smells like leather though.
So, one location in Charleston I'd avoid like the plague. Ah, okay. So,
I bought it on Wish, so I had no idea when it was coming.
I think I would avoid the Battery. I would avoid the Battery like a plague. And I think... I mean, any touristy place that's public, like the Battery, Rainbow Row, Waterfront Park, because you're just going to have rubberneckers who are going to bother you, and also you're probably going to get run off by the cops, because getting permits in those places is really hard. And JJ has stories about the Heels shoot, that droid in Heels shoot with JJ, the original RK-900 in Heels shoot was done in Waterfront Park in the Battery, and he had all these issues of, quote-unquote, the other cosplay group, aka the Confederate reenactors, were also there at the same time looking at him running around Waterfront Park in booty shorts and heels. So, it's awkward. It can get really awkward in downtown Charleston sometimes. Honestly, just downtown in general sucks because it's so cramped, there's no parking, moving around is awful. We ended up paying... How much did parking cost at Burns Alley that night? $37, I think?
Oh, I have no idea.
I remember having to hand Chris Trindade $40 for the parking validation because of that fucking parking lot that we had to park at. We were at Burns Alley from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. and I believe the parking cost $36. No, we parked in a lot, which was a metered lot, and we ended up getting screwed because we had to pay the overnight rate because it went into the next day.
I mean, y'all parked somewhere. I parked somewhere
you parked somewhere else. I had to pay $36 for my parking, and I had to pay $36 for Chris and Maximilian's parking.
I parked with Brittany Brock, who...
You're fundraising dollars at work, everybody. It wasn't the smartest decision, but it was the only place we could get. Burns Alley stuff didn't have parking. It had like 2 parking spots, and one of them was for the owner. So Brett parked, you know, his van, his you know, the camera van always got priority for loading purposes. So he parked in the parking spot, and the rest of us had to go find someplace else and haul our shit over. So yeah, it was yikes. So we ended up I would say anywhere downtown. Yeah, just kind of sucks. I also like I'm trying to think. I mean, that's really it. Downtown is a pain. Like that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. Mount Pleasant I also don't love just because it's overpriced and full of yuppies. How do you approach someone properly through email for locations? I have a school short I have to film for 60% of my grades. I'm going to need locations. So let me see if I can find the email that I wrote. Because I had like a template that I wrote. Oh, there's those Hollow Taco multi-chromes that are probably already sold out. I know I just forwarded this to Michael Smallwood because we're doing some location scouting for some stuff. So yeah, I'll verbalize this because I don't want you to see my email. Hello, name of location owner. My name is Michelle Antuano. I'm an independent film producer based here in Charleston. All right, let's unpack that. Number 1, introduce my name. Number 2, independent film producer. Do not say that you are the director or the writer because it makes it obvious that you are an indie production. You want to say that you're the producer because it makes it look like you have a team together. It's also not a lie. I was the producer of the film. They don't need to know that I was also the writer and the director. And based here in Charleston. So I am local. Help me. I'm local. I recently received your contact information from Dan Rogers at the South Carolina Film Commission, because one thing I have not explained yet is that the way that this location library works is I would find locations that I liked. I would assemble like 10 or 15 of them, put them in a spreadsheet. I'd email Dan, who runs the South Carolina Film Commission location library, and be like, hey, Dan, I got these 15 locations. Give me the contact information from them. And so I'd list out the locations, and whatever he could find in his database that was up to date, he would send me the phone numbers and the emails of the people who I could then email those location, you know, this email to. So this is how I went through this process. All of the location info is not publicly available on this website. You have to contact the Film Commission. They kind of have to like vet you first, but not a whole lot. Then the email continues. My company, Octopunk Media, has produced 6 films to date, including the feature film Livescream, which has been given nationwide Blu-ray distribution and won over a dozen awards in the film festival circuit. We are also the producers of Detroit Awakening, a cyberpunk noir short film that has gathered nearly 500,000 views on YouTube to date. So basically a paragraph of credentials, a paragraph of this is not my first rodeo. I have a feature in distribution. If you let us shoot at your place, then we will, you know, it will be seen by people. It's not going to just be like, you know, something that's never seen by anybody. Next paragraph. Our next project is a feature-length sequel to that film, to Detroit Awakening, entitled Detroit Evolution. This film will shoot in Charleston October 25th through November 1st, and has a principal cast and crew of about 12 people. So this is giving them a range of shoot dates, so we'll see if they're available during that time, and giving them an idea of how small our crew is, so it's not an overwhelming number of people. I say feature-length sequel to show that this is a feature. I at no point say that it is a fan film, because again, that sort of delegitimizes yourself. You want to be like, I'm a real filmmaker. And I also at never any point, with the exception of locations that are specifically LGBT friendly or supporting of LGBT agendas, say that it is a gay romance. That is something I kept real close to the vest for most of my locations. Now, there is a gay bar in town called Dudley's, and I was thinking about using them if I couldn't get Burns Alley. And if I did email Dudley's, to get to use their bar, I would have said this is an LGBT film, that this is a gay romance film, because that would have been like, hey, we are, we're doing this film that is similar to the audience that you guys serve with your bar and stuff. So we obviously know that they're very LGBT friendly because they're a gay bar. If it's something like this, like a co-working space or something, yeah, we keep that close to the vest. We don't say that because don't alienate your chances right out the gate. What they don't need to know, they don't need to know. And you also see, I see cyberpunk noir film. Okay, whatever. They don't need to know it's a fan film. They don't need to know it's, romance. They don't need to know any of that. They just need to know it's feature length, it's sci-fi, whatever. Every time anybody ever asked me what it was about, I was just like, future cops, whatever. We are currently seeking shooting locations, and I'm inquiring about utilizing your location here as a location for the film. We seek and then in this case, it was a beautiful garden that does not have any other people present. We would require a small corner of the garden for ourselves for a maximum of 10 hours. This was for a garden location. So it's basically like, this is the type of location that we're shooting for. This is how long we would need the location. Although we are a low-budget and fan-funded production, we do have some allotment for location fees, and we may be able to negotiate a rental fee should you require it. We are also happy to give credit, sponsorship, product placement, or video trade when available as well. So it's like, we can pay you if you want, or if you don't, we could do product placement, we could do sponsorship, I could go make a video for your location instead, like I did with Harbor Entrepreneur Center. We could do some kind of trade, whatever. What I don't have currently in this email is also what I started mentioning later on, is we are also insured for up to $2 million liability insurance. So that's another legitimacy. If you are a student, you probably don't have that unless you basically work under some sort of contract with your school that maybe has liability insurance over its students. But if you do have insurance, that's always worth mentioning, because all 3 locations that I had to pay for also required a certificate of insurance. I could not have shot at Trident or Magnolia or at Low Country Local without having had insurance. Insurance, by the way, is $1,500 a year for an umbrella policy that lasts you the entire year. It covers every film you do for the whole year. I shot 3 films that year, so it more than paid for itself. Luckily, I did not renew my production insurance this year because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna film anything, and then with COVID, thank God, that was a great decision. I saved $1,500 because if I had paid for that, I would have been pissed. But whenever I do another film, probably next year, I'll be renewing that policy, and then that'll cover me for the whole year. So, just something to keep in mind. And the final paragraph is, if you would like to meet in person to chat more about the opportunity, please let me know and we could set up an appointment. As I said, I live here in Charleston, so I'd be happy to meet with you for a location scout. You can reach me by text or phone at my number. Cheers, Michelle Antoino, Octopunk Media, octopunkmedia.com. So that is my sort of template email that I used for every person that was the email that I sent off to those 50 different places. It explained my credentials, it explained what I was looking for, how long I would require their location, and for what dates. It gave a little bit of information about the film, but no more than they really needed to do. If you are a student, lead with that. Hey, we're students. There's so many of these places that want to help students out and that won't charge you anything. They'll just be like, I want to support the arts, whatever. I think I actually had a harder time of it because they were like, oh, she's professional enough that I can just charge her an arm and a leg and, she can afford it. Like, we wanted to avoid that. That's why I still said we're low budget, we're indie, just so that they wouldn't try to mistake us for Netflix. And we're new in town, although I'm not. I've been here 20 years. I'm not an Ohio transplant. Give me a good deal. I'm local. So yeah, that was pretty much the concept of my email that I shot.
It's all Ohio?
All Ohio. What else we got? How do you deal with rejections and requests without fearing rejections? So that's actually an interesting question, Shira, because I think you get numb to it after a while. When I was younger, when I was 17, and I was doing my first film that actually required me to go ask people for things. This was Zodiac, a Heroes web series that I shot at College of Charleston. And I was a College of Charleston student at the time. So I was a student at this college, and I was looking for locations at the college. So I was going around being like, I am a student here, let me shoot. Can I shoot here? I was so nervous about it. I was so like, oh my God, what if they say no? And really, what I found is that, number one, barely any people do say no, especially if you ask them to their face. And number two, it's just really not that scary once you do it a few times. And through email especially, just shoot off an email, and the worst they can do is not reply. Or they can say, none of those buildings are owned by the city, which is rather cold. But then you just learn to shake that off. And I think that I found that, you know, people are more generous than you expect them to be. And that might just be a South Carolina thing, but people really do want to help you for nothing in return, a lot of the time. And it's, I always try my emails to try to frame it. Whenever I ask anybody for anything, I try to frame it not for what they can do for me, but for what I can do for them. Because if you go to somebody and you're like, hey, help me out, stranger, they're not going to answer that. But if you go and you're like, hey, I want to feature your location in a film that will be seen by 750,000 people, and I want to give you money for it, then maybe they're a little bit more likely to respond, because you're offering them something. You're offering them an opportunity. You're offering them money. You're thinking in terms of, like, if I got this email, what would make me say yes? What would make me say, oh, that sounds cool, I want to be involved in this, versus why is this stranger just asking me for a favor in my email? I've never met them. So that's kind of the secret to negotiation, is always have empathy. Think about what they're hearing. Think about what it feels like to be on the other side of that ask, and try to frame it in a way that makes it as beneficial for them as possible. And if they still say no, then you tried your best. And that's really, you know, then if they still say no at that point, it wasn't that you asked wrong. It's that they're just not willing to deal with whatever you're asking for. So becoming numb for rejections is, here's the other thing about it. In my life, I have been rejected a gazillion times on multiple different axes. I remember applying to internships when I was in college, getting rejected so many times. Applying for jobs out of college, getting rejected so many times. Applying for distribution for Livestream. Applying for literary agents for Paradisa. Applying for pitch wars for Paradisa. I was rejected probably 95 times for Paradisa, because I submitted like 100 query emails, 5 of them replied to me, and the other 95 either rejected me or did not reply at all. It is a numbers game, 100%. I have found that 1 in 20 people tend to reply. That's just one of those weird statistics that I've always found to be true in job interviews, in queries, in location scouting. Actually, location scouting, I had better numbers than that. If 1 in 20 people reply, you're on the right track. If 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 people reply, you're hot. You're onto something. You're gonna make it. Because anything like less than 1 in 20, maybe you need to reframe your pitch, but it's just the sheer numbers game of you just gotta knock on a lot of doors to get to the ones that will say yes. And so that's kind of how I become numb to rejection, is that I know that for every yes, it's going to cost me like between 9 and 19 no's. And you just got to get through those no's to get to that yes. And I think that for me, that's why I'm kind of numb to it. Certainly there are locations that I really, really wanted to say yes, or really, really wanted to get a reply from, because I thought they were beautiful or they'd work really well for the movie. And it was very disappointing when I didn't get a response, or when I got a no. Like, I was really disappointed when I couldn't work out things with Longevity. I thought that was a really cool location. But I think that ultimately it's like there's always more, and, you know, what's going to work out is what's going to work out. And I think that Detroit Evolution was a beautiful film. All of the locations that we had were great. And I can't really picture the movie looking any other way now. There's a lot of these locations that could have been, you know, originally that I imagined could have been the movie, and that's not how it worked out. But hey, it was in budget and it looked good, and I don't think I really felt like I had to compromise on locations that much. The locations that were important, we got good locations for, and the locations that were kind of like, whatever, you know, like an apartment or whatever, you know, I would have loved to have had like this beautiful, like high-rise modern loft for Gavin's apartment. We couldn't get that, but what worked in the film, so it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, you Smallwood says in the chat, being rejected as part of living life as an artist, you have to get used to it. I'm an actor, writer, and black man. Rejection is nothing. Yes, absolutely. Like, we just get used to it after a time, and, you know, it's... especially when you're doing something that's kind of vanguard or doing something that other people don't typically do, then you're just going to feel it even more. You know, if you're doing a horror movie that takes place in a high rise as opposed to a forest and a cabin in the woods, which is an easy location to shoot in, which is why you see so many low budget horror movies that use the cabin in the woods, it's going to take more work and it's going to take more rejection, but you just got to keep knocking on doors and eventually you'll get there. Let me see if there's anything else. Zombie Mom says, I get how location scouting can be fun. I love house hunting, even though I can't buy a home. Yeah, that's it for me. I love scrolling through here and just being like, God, wouldn't it be fun to shoot a film there? Detective Reed, any locations you would use again? Yes, I loved the DPD location. I would shoot at the harbor again. I would shoot at Trident again. I think the people we worked with there were really cool. The great thing about working with Glenn at Trident was that he works with the entire campus. So we could shoot in the nursing school again, but we could also shoot in the film area. There's a film school there, and we could shoot in their studio. We could shoot in their conference rooms. We could shoot in their classrooms. Anywhere on campus, like, I would contact Glenn again, and we could work something out. And now I know that it's a pretty affordable location, and he knows that we were in and out, and we didn't mess anything up, and everything. You know, we were proper and paid our bills and had insurance, and the check cleared and everything like that. That would definitely be a location I would go back again. I would maybe not go back to Burns Alley. They were very sweet. It's very lovely. I would maybe go back there. It was just the whole fridge thing. The sound was kind of difficult there. I can tell you that Detroit Awakening, I will never shoot on East Montague out on the street again. That was an awful location.
Down one of our favorite restaurants.
I hated that location. We had to throw out an entire scene from the movie because that location sucked so much. Ugh, hated it. So actually, we had pretty good experience with most of our locations on DE, though. I don't think there was any one where I was like, ugh, I'm never coming back here again. I cannot go back to the warehouse because Whaley no longer owns that warehouse. He lost possession of it. So that's one that we can't get back to. But other than that, I think everything else is, like, we could go back. I think Magnolia Plantation was overpriced. And, yeah, but I don't know.
That Zen Garden was deleted.
The Zen Garden was deleted, so it doesn't matter. Let's see. What else we got? Filming our new feature, Future Cops. Yeah, that's all they need to know. Actually, you know, that brings me to an interesting concept, Sarah. Some films work under alternate names, and I considered doing that with Detroit Evolution. I considered calling it something different, just so that people wouldn't find out that it was a fan film. And I ended up not suffering from it. I think the reason I ended up doing it was because Detroit Awakening was already, you know, on our catalog, and that was obviously a fan film. So maybe I could have given it a working title. But yeah, like Halloween had a working. What was Michael? What was the working title for Halloween? Wasn't it called like Orange something? Like Orange Juice or something? Like that was like the fake title for Halloween. Blue Harvest is the one for Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. But there was
the original the production name on the Revenge of the Sith DVD.
Oh yeah.
It's like Charlotte Bridge.
Charlotte Bridge was the Revenge of the Sith one. Yeah. Halloween 2018 was filmed under the name Uncle Orange. That's right. Uncle Orange was so like you would go to like a gas station or something, and then you'd see a film crew there, and it would have a sign like, "We are currently filming Uncle Orange." And everybody knew it was Halloween, like because we all knew that was what it was that it was shooting at the time. So yeah. Halloween Kills was filmed under the name Mob Rule. Oh, I didn't know that, Michael. Oh, I thought mob rules was a legit thing. Oh, that's cool. Because I saw casting calls for mob rules. I saw extras casting, I think, for mob rules. I did not know that that was the working title. I didn't know that was Halloween. Holy shit. Yeah, okay, cool. Wow. And they've already shot some of it. Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, even the call sheets and the scripts would have that working title on it, so that nothing could leak. Bigger productions do it so that things won't leak, or so that like paparazzi won't come and like take set pictures and stuff. But for us, it would be a matter of like, I just don't want you Googling me. I just don't want you Googling my fan films. So we want to make it look more legit. So we would maybe do it under a working title. And also, I've considered, now that we've gotten bigger, doing casting calls under working titles so that people don't know what we're casting. Yeah. I considered doing it with Detroit Evolution so that people couldn't find our... I did it with a Detroit Awakening. I did Detroit Awakening's casting call under Awakening so that people wouldn't realize it was a fan film when they were applying for the casting, because I wanted people to just submit without knowing that. So yeah, a lot of working titles happen, and I could have done it with the location scouting, and maybe next time I will. I don't know. If money were no object, do you have a dream location you'd love to use? So let me actually, now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna show you that park in Greenville. The problem with this park, it would have been $800, which is very cheap, but they would not have closed the entire park for us. And that was kind of not gonna work. Falls Park on the Reedy, that's what this is called. I'm gonna show you pictures of this. It is a really neat park. There's waterfalls in it. And there's a huge bridge that's really pretty. This is in Greenville, South Carolina. This is where Brittany Brock is from. Where she lives. And why is there like no pictures? Show me pictures. I don't care about history. Show me pictures. Boo. But yeah, they basically would not have, like, I mean, maybe if we had a lot of money, but apparently we didn't have enough money. Like, this is a painting of it, but yeah, you got your bridge here, you got your falls. It would have been really cool. But if money was no object, if I could just shoot anywhere, man, I don't know. What would have been too expensive to even consider? I don't know, like, because I thought Trident and I thought Magnolia were gonna be impossible. Like, when I was originally doing this, those two were like my locations where I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to afford this. And when they gave me quotes that I could afford for them and we were actually able to shoot there, I was really surprised. I don't know. I would say if there was like a rooftop garden, Sky Garden, that's the place that I really wish had replied to me. I hated that they left me on red because they're so cool. Not Sky Garden London, Sky Garden Charleston. The Butterfly Garden at Cypress Gardens was another one that would have been really cool. Let's see. So, like, this is the Butterfly House at Cypress Gardens. And they wouldn't, like, let us. This is what it looks like. It's really cool. It's like a big interior, like, greenhouse that has butterflies and stuff in it. This would have been a really cool Zen garden. So this was kind of one of my dream locations that did not work out. And then this is Sky Garden. They're student apartments. Let me see. There's just like really cool, give me some pictures. I mean, you can kind of see, it's like this really neat, like, rooftop terrace sort of deal gallery. Here we go. There's a lot of, like, interiors, or, like, whatever. I don't care about the interiors. I don't care about pet of the month. Oh my gosh, this is just a bunch of garbage. Show me some pictures of where you live. Boo. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Because there's a lot of places that, I don't know, it wasn't so much a money thing. It was just they didn't answer me. You know? And maybe if I had had a ton of money and could have just given them $1 million or something and they would have just said yes. I'm a place without palm trees. Actually, you know what where I would love to have shot is somewhere that's not Charleston. I would have loved to maybe have shot in Atlanta. It did take any locations you like that weren't your city or state. Like, yeah, Atlanta. I mean, going to actual Detroit and shooting in Detroit would have been cool. Like, actually shooting at the Ambassador Park would have been cool. Even shooting abroad, like the one place I love is Singapore, where they shot Westworld. I would just stay with Nebby and we would shoot in Singapore. Singapore's so cool and so futuristic looking and so pretty, and that would be like a dream location to go bring everybody over to Singapore and shoot a movie, because it's very, very cyberpunk looking, and I could totally see why they used that location for Westworld. So that's about it. Let me see what else. I think that's everything. Well, we've been here 2 hours now. So I'm totally down to travel, just saying. Well, I don't know. Plane tickets to Singapore are expensive, honey. Like, it would take the entire budget of DE just to fly us all to Singapore, so I don't know. Maybe when we get, like, FU money, maybe we get, like, a $3 million budget to shoot something, that'd be great. But yeah, thank you for joining me for this stream and dealing with my technical difficulties in the beginning and all of our delays and everything. Hope you like this little look behind the scenes of how I found the locations for DE, and also some of the locations that almost ended up in the movie but didn't. I'm going to try to see if I can find like some other pictures of places that I looked at that I wasn't able to gather before this stream, and see if there's anything there. As far as next Saturday goes, I'm not sure. I need to look at my schedule and see if I have anything planned for next Saturday. And what that might be. Maybe I'll put it up for a vote or something like that. I can tell you that on Monday, Apu, we're going to be doing Apu and Fan Art of the Week, and also looking at what's coming this month on Patreon. On Thursday, we're going to be finishing Tell Me Why, Episode 3, the finale of that series, on YouTube this Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm going to be doing Game of the Week, Crash Bandicoot 4, which I'm so excited about. Comes out this Friday. All new game, all new Crash Bandicoot game. Watch me fail to get some Wumpa Fruit and to not know how to jump. That will be a lot of fun. As always, stay great, hydrate, have a happy time zone, and as Greg says, be good, make good choices.